Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. I'm Marianne McDonough, Chief Marketing Officer for Erwin, and it is my great pleasure to welcome all of you, so many of you, to the Evolve Virtual User Group event today. Victoria, if you move to the next slide, I'm just going to cover a little bit of housekeeping before I turn it over to Wendy Petty, who's our MC for the event. These are typically questions that people will ask us through the course of the presentation. So all lines will be in listen-only mode for the duration of the event. At any time, if you'd like to ask a question, you can type it directly into the questions tab at the lower right, and we will aggregate and take questions at the very end of the session. We've got some terrific customer speakers today, and Wendy will tell you a little bit about them, and I'm sure that you're going to want to hear directly from them as well. And then last but certainly not least, this is something we get asked about all the time, is attendees will receive a copy of the presentation after the event has been concluded. So without further ado, I am going to turn it over to Wendy Petty, the Senior Vice President of Global Sales and Services for Erwin, and take it away, Wendy.
Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. Victoria, if you could just go back up to the agenda slide for a sec. Thank you for everyone joining us for the Evolve Virtual User Group. I'm actually located working out of my house in Port Washington, New York, which is on Long Island. And actually, Long Island is where the Erwin corporate headquarters are. So I hope everyone is around the world is staying safe and healthy during this time. And I would really like to welcome our existing customers to today's event and start off by thanking you for your business and your partnership. It's because of our existing customers that we've been able to take our Erwin Evolve solution to the next level. You've been fantastic in sharing your feedback about, the product and the things that we need to do differently to, make it more adaptable to your environments. So without you, we really couldn't be where we are in our Evolve life cycle. And I'll share a little bit more with you in a little bit around Evolve. I'd also like to welcome those that are new to Evolve. When we announced that we were having a Erwin Evolve Virtual User Group, we got a request from some of our partners, as well as for some new customers and existing customers that wanted to hear what we were doing with Evolve. So we've got a very jam-packed session for today, and some of the feedback that we've gotten from our customers is that they really wanted to hear how other customers have been utilizing our solutions. So what we decided to do with today's virtual user group is really make it interactive and leveraging our existing customers and sharing with you. They'll share with you how they're actually using Evolve. So it's real world. You'll see how other customers are taking advantage of the solution, and it will be interactive. The last virtual user group meeting that we did in person was actually in London, probably maybe not so far off from this time last year. And then we did a group virtually in New York. So we've got hundreds of people from around the world that have joined us. And again, I thank you. And let me just go through the agenda real quick. So I will take you through just a little bit of a Erwin update. I think it's important to share with you what we're doing from a company perspective, and to talk a little bit how we have, and I say this all the time, and I said I wouldn't say it, but I can't help it, how we have actually evolved our Evolve solution. So I'll do the update, and then we have Dave Favreau from our customer Adecco, and I'll introduce him later. Manuel will talk about our web modeler solution, and then we have Scott Lawson from QAD, who will share with you how they're using Evolve, and then Marios, who you all know, I'm sure, who will talk about, enterprise architecture in a risk and compliance environment and what's happening today. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So I just wanted to spend a little bit of time and just talk about really, and these are questions, how has your world changed today? And the word change is actually very appropriate as we're going through this, this pandemic, this new way of doing things. And I just wanted to, talk a little bit about it and just raise some questions and some things for you to think about that we are also been thinking about and what we're finding in this world of change. And so, we have all gone through change in our lives, whether it was from a business perspective, a life perspective, and we're always changing. And so this gives us another opportunity to change and to adopt. And I look at it from an opportunistic perspective because what was the past is changing, and what will be the future is where our opportunity is. So if we just if we just think about this, and if you ask yourself, how has work from home changed the way you collaborate? And, we were just in our pre-call before getting on here, we were just, all the folks that are going to be speaking, we're talking about, the use of video conferencing and taking our productivity to a whole other level and doing things that we normally wouldn't have done before and being able, to leverage technology. And so collaboration has been such a focus for everyone, and that's part of the change. And when we look at the evolved solution and we look at enterprise architecture and business process, it is right smack in the middle of everything that's happening in the world today. Another question is, are you working on different initiatives that you planned in January? So in speaking with a lot of our customers, what we've learned is the projects that are in place are escalating, or not escalating and accelerating. The time to get implementations completed there's a much more sense of urgency to get the projects done than ever before. And then our customers who were actually evaluating, they're still evaluating, but waiting to see what's going to happen. But we see a lot of acceleration on existing projects. So just think about your initiatives and how it's been for you. And I know we have a lot of different types of customers and companies on the phone, and it's a little bit different. And I just wanted to share from our perspective. And then has your long-term strategic plan shifted? How has your plans changed from yesterday to today? We're starting to see things become just in time. I was on the phone with a customer this morning that has immediate need for change that we need to be able to move quickly and help them with. So what's really interesting about all of this during this time is we asked the question is how has enterprise architecture or business process become more or less strategic than pre-COVID? And it's interesting that before COVID even started, we began to see a pickup in our prospects and customers around looking at enterprise architecture solutions. And it was really due to companies going through modernization and transformation, and now we see it even more. And so we see the reinvention of enterprise architecture, and so does Gartner. So you'll see on the left-hand side of my screen here some of Gartner's thoughts on enabling strategic and operational change and what enterprise architecture's role is. And so just at a high level right now, it's all about speed and efficiency, which becomes a new norm, operational intelligence, and the know of what's actually happening when people are in the working from home, And then again, the resurgence of enterprise architecture. And this modernization and this transformation without, IT and business coming together, and without documented process and being able to move more quickly, the reinvention is happening now. And what I've said and what I've been saying, and when I talk to our customers, is enterprise architecture is in. It is what companies need to be focused on, and the role of enterprise architecture in businesses today is going to become even more and more important. And we're in the right place at the right time to help you get through that. So we actually saw this, if we can go to the next slide, in building out the Evolve business. Victoria, if you can go to the next slide. So just to share with you some updates from an Erwin perspective, and what we actually looked at when we created our Center of Excellence. Almost a year ago, we created it, and we established the Center of Excellence to focus more on products, our solutions, and the delivery. And we saw a gap in the marketplace that we felt like we needed to take a leadership role in this space of enterprise architecture and business process. And we got feedback from our consultants and our customers and the analyst community that Erwin needed a laser-focused approach for our Evolve solution. So we created the COE with a mission that is about a customer-focused, cross-disciplinary team delivering innovative solutions that accelerates, your business. And what we actually changed was we created a centralized, highly skilled team of dedicated resources that have been focused on taking the, Evolve solution to the next level. We've created a team of, development resources that are specifically focused on meeting, our customers' needs. We expanded our product management team, and we're looking to become much more effective and responsive to our customers' needs. So go to the next slide. So about a few months ago, we started to rebrand what everyone knows as, we call it formerly case-wise, to our Evolve suite. And we did that because we felt like, based on the feedback from our customers, that there was too much confusion around, our solution. It was called case-wise, it was called EADP, it was called Erwin for EADP. So we decided that the platform has been known as Evolve, so we're going to call it the Erwin Evolve Suite. And again, for those that have been using, the solutions, about each of the different capabilities, but to use the platform as the center, and then be able to leverage our model tool.
Wendy, you're breaking up a little bit. I don't know what's going on.
Is it better?
No. So.
It could be all the bandwidth. Let me take my video off.
Yeah, why don't you do that? That's a great idea. Sorry, everybody. It's what happens when you compete for bandwidth with all the kids that are distance learning around us.
Okay. So we created the Evolve Suite. So again, a lot of you are familiar with it, but it just made sense to make it simpler for everybody to understand, and to be able to collaborate, leverage the different capabilities. And so for everyone, for all of our users, what was formerly case-wise is Evolve. Next slide. So just a couple of other areas that I want to share with you. And, during this crisis, what we brought to market was and released what we call Work from Home Impact Manager. And this, just as a very high level, will look familiar to a lot of you who are using the Evolve solution. And basically, what we're giving companies the ability to do is have a single source of intelligence regarding remote workers, from understanding their communication preferences to processes, to systems and technologies, and to empower management to actually access, a basically cloud-based solution that has out-of-the-box capability from personas around management, inside sales, HR, and it's completely customizable to work in your environment. And if you're interested in seeing more and hearing about it, you can go right to our website. And let me just close with, next slide, please. Let me just close with talking about what we refer to as EDGE. And so the EDGE for us is really all about enterprise data governance and the experience that you have with governance. And this is Erwin, holistically as a company, how we position our solutions. And today, it's all about the data, and it's even more and more important than it has ever been before. And if you look at, you know, our EDGE ecosystem, is made up of all of our solutions. It's made up of enterprise architecture, business process, data modeling, and our data intelligence suite. And from a customer perspective and really understanding what EDGE does, it basically connects all of our capabilities and our solutions. And what we're starting to see from customers and hear from customers is the ability to integrate data into process. And so with our EDGE solution, taking it from, you know, data modeling to integrating the models into a data intelligence suite and being able to do lineage and source to target mapping, and then bring that metadata into your processes with our EDGE platform. This is what differentiates us in the marketplace and where you'll be able to compete competitively in your space by leveraging, you know, the EDGE platform. So with that, let's get into the excitement of our customers and what they're doing today. So let me introduce to you Dave Favreau. Dave is responsible for global enterprise architecture at Adecco. For those of you who don't know who Adecco is the second largest HR provider around the globe. And I've had the opportunity to spend time with Dave and the Adecco team through their evaluation of our solution over the past year and a half. And I think what you're going to see and how they're utilizing, you know, Evolve today is going to give you some ideas in how you might like to do things, and you know, see how, you know, Evolve can be scaled. So with that, Dave, I'll hand it off to you.
Okay, thanks, Wendy. So, hello, everybody. It's a pleasure for me to be here and to present what we did with Evolve in Adecco context. Just before getting into really the usage of Evolve, maybe I can present you a bit what is our company doing. Can you present the slide, Victoria, please? Okay, so our company, so we are HR service leader since 1996. So we are competing mainly with actors as Randstad and Manpower. We are implemented in across 60 countries, so which means that we have as any international company, we are facing cultural, I will say, challenges. The key challenge also we have is that the maturity of the market is not the same, and the kind of HR service we are providing across countries are differing from country to another. Just to be clear on what are HR services, it's going from temp staffing to permanent staffing. It also include all the training part or the outsourcing of HR activities as recruitment, even payroll in some countries, and help in restructuring companies when they are in difficulties. One of the key challenge for this, or coming from this, is that Adecco is still structured as region. So this means that each region is responsible for his own results, which is sometimes quite challenging at global level to get consistent enterprise architecture practices, and the maturity is really differing from country to another. As a result, we landed with a catalog of solutions, so really a portfolio of application across Adecco, which is more than 1,000. Now we have referenced about 1,200, which is quite complex and provide us a strong challenge to getting the future business model, which will be more digital and which will require to have data structure harmonization and even application harmonization. So what we did, next slide, please. What we did so far in 2017, we were 4 in enterprise architecture team, and we start to build a simple framework on architecture based on the standard, I would say, of enterprise architecture, but we didn't name it as TOGAF or ever standard in order to not afraid the countries who were most of the time pushing back complex standard and so on. But we are relying on key principles as business and data architecture, solution architecture, infrastructure, and security. And we embed all of our framework with a project management framework in order to be able to get the more information we can in order to gather information about new solution which were already in place, and we use Evolve in order to store it in our catalog of solutions. So our catalog of solutions is really a central repository, which is key in order to enable enterprise architecture activity. How did we move, or how did we land with Erwin Evolve solution? Next slide, please. So just to be Victoria, thanks. So just to be clear, the structure and even the IT, the way IT was structured in Adecco has evolved along these years. Before 2012, we were really country focused. We started, or we tried to build a catalog or portfolio of application, so a catalog of solutions using SharePoint. But as we global team wasn't so influencing countries, and countries were perceiving this as redoing or providing kind of reporting to corporate, it was not working. In 2012, we start a big program in order to try to harmonize both solutions and business processes across Adecco, which was called Everest. Here, all the IT team went or become global. Here, we used this opportunity to gather the maximum of information around all the application which was implemented across Adecco. And we store it in Excel spreadsheet, and which try to use Mega as a tool, but Mega was quite complex and quite expensive, and we received a big pushback from people in order to update the data directly in the tool. So we were really using a lot of Excel. When starting 2017, we changed a bit our organization by balancing better the power of countries versus the power of corporate, and so be more close to our business requirements. By doing this, we were 4 in the team. We continue and we enhance our Excel spreadsheet. However, it was quite limited. So we started to assess our solution, a solution in order to be able to host all the information we have gathered so far in a central repository which was accessible to everybody. And here came Erwin solution. Next slide, please, Victoria. So our key principles was the first one, really to be able to fit the maturity of the various countries. because some countries was really small and there were no dedicated architect able to understand what was the various dimension of the solution we need to gather. So we need to keep it simple as much as possible and to capture the minimum of information from them. But for the more mature countries and as a target where we want to go, we needed also to provide some capabilities which were more powerful in terms of storing information. It was really one of the first criteria. The second one was really maybe most of people who are working on enterprise architecture are knowing that, is that at the end, and it's the truth for most of other things, our decision maker needs to have just few slides to understand what is the landscape, what is the situation, what is the transformation plan, and so on. However, in order to be able to build just these few slides, you need to gather tons of information before this. It's a kind of pyramid or iceberg syndrome. So the key challenge we wanted is to be able to have a tool which will provide as simple as possible the information in a simple manner, be able to find the right information very easily, and so on. But being able also to store complex things in order to enable enterprise architecture work. And it's why, based on all the assessment we did, we have chosen Evolve solution. So just to be fair, where we are today. Please, next slide. So now our solution, which is called Goal internally, is live for 1 year. So we rolled out the first version in April. We are able really to capture or to consult any solution which is rolled out in any countries. We are still missing some small countries, but we are close to be fulfilled at 95% about. We are able also to store all the global solution or the reference product we want to become standard in Adecco. So it become really a kind of repository which has to be consulted each time a country, whatever the business is, need to implement a new solution in order to support their business, which is quite interesting. We are capturing for each solution various business dimensions as the business capabilities, business objects which are used, so really the data which are manipulated, which brand they are supporting, and with several levels of granularity. We are using also this tool in order to manage all the technical or technology, I will say, related to this solution. So it becomes also our catalog of technologies, IT technologies. And this helped us these last 2 years to fit the gap or to, I will say, enhance the way our landscape were, because we were facing some issues with security due to obsolescence of a lot of platforms which were used in countries. And so it has been able to really manage all the projects to remediate this obsolescence issue. And now we are at a stage where we start to modelize flows directly in the tool in order also to support all the data challenge we can have to understand which solution is interacting which other, and mainly also to understand what are the data which are transported by the solution. It's key to be able to be compliant with GDPR, for instance. Of course, our solution today is not hosting all the as a source of truth all the information on the servers and all the software which are installed. So we needed to link our tool with ServiceNow, and this has been done through API capability provided by both systems. By now, we are using the tool to really monitor the way we are transforming our IT landscape progressively, and we are able to modelize some target we want to reach in the coming years in order to enable all the digital business we want to get in, and in order to stay our leadership position and to be able to challenge with Randstad, for instance. That's it on my side. So don't hesitate if you have some questions. I'll be happy to answer them at the end of the Q&A.
So Dave, thank you very much. That was it's really interesting to see how far you have come really over the last year and a half. And just some key points that I just wanted to share with you based on what Adecco is doing, and is pretty much in line with what I opened up with around the importance, even more so now, of enterprise architecture. And we see this with, again, a lot of our customers. After an in-depth evaluation, what we hear is that you need to keep it simple, but still be able to store the more complex capabilities, and create the more complex models and processes. And a lot of our customers actually name their systems, and in this case you named it goal, which I think is great. You brought up another point that I just wanted to kind of highlight, and that is the being able to centralize globally, and to actually bring business and IT together, and that those are some of the things that you're doing. And then the last point you made that I just wanted to reiterate and share with everyone, which I spoke about before, is the importance of how data now interacts with applications and with processes, and being able to tie data to process and applications. And as you all get more familiar with Erwin and our capabilities, that's what we'll be able to do. So next up is Manuel Ponchaux. Manuel is our product manager for Evolve. And so what he's going to do is actually talk about our new offering as part of the latest release, the Evolve Web Modeler. So Manuel, why don't you take it away?
Thanks, Wendy. Let's see if the technology works. If you can see my screen. Can you see it?
Yes. Yes.
Great, thank you. So hi everyone, and thanks for joining us for this session. So let's talk about Web Modeler. So as Wendy said, Web Modeler is a new component that we introduced as part of the Evolve 2020 release that came out a few weeks ago. I don't have any slides, so I will just show you the tool, and we'll try to introduce you to the benefits and the features of Web Modeler through a couple of use cases. So the screen you can see in front of you is a standard, out-of-the-box implementation of Evolve. Scott, who's presenting after me, will actually show you, his real-life, implementation of Evolve. So I won't spend too much time talking about Evolve itself and focus on Web Modeler. But Evolve is is at the heart of our suite, and that's where users will access and update architectural information. So for my first use case, I will be an application portfolio manager, and I'm told that one of my application, Salesforce, is costing the company a lot of money, and I have to show the value of that application. So I will go through my application architecture and see what I have regarding Salesforce. It's there, so I can see various diagrams that describes that application. I've got here, the services it provides. So that would be a good way to start showing value about Salesforce. And I can see I've got my diagram here. It looks pretty good, but I'm wondering, if possibly there are some services missing, in that diagram. So I've got Salesforce as an application here. I've got my services it provides, the processes that are using these services, and the parts of the organization performing these processes. So next, I will ask Tony, one of my junior architects, to go and find out a bit more about Salesforce. So first of all, in terms of the benefits of web diagrammer, it's the ability to be able to edit diagrams and create diagrams straight from the Evolve suite, the Evolve application. So here, from the diagram, I can edit it, and that will bring me into Web Modeler. And this is the Web Modeler application. The second benefit of Web Modeler is the fact that Web Modeler, when you edit a diagram, you create a draft, and that means that you can experiment with your diagram, play around with it, and there's no danger of impacting the underlying models. So the information the users see is always true. You only publish the diagram when you're happy with the information you have in front of you, and that's what makes me, as an application portfolio manager, happy for Tony, the junior architect, to go and play around with the diagram, and when he's done his work, then he can come back to me, and I can validate it and publish it. So as Tony now, I'm in the diagrammer here, and I will need to create additional information. But in order to do that, I will actually ask Wendy. Wendy's our expert in Salesforce, so she will be able to tell us where it's being used and what I can do with it. And so Wendy tells me that there is another thing that I can do with Salesforce, which is to actually create an order. So here I will have a new service, which is create order. So I'm creating a new symbol here on my diagram, and here I can give it the name of the new service. So order creation, and I can then save that object. And then I'm told that that order creation is helping me with a process called create order. So I'm creating that process here, placing that process here, and here I'm looking to create order. And create order is actually a process that already exists. I can actually reuse that information. So one key thing about Web Modeler is it's not just a drawing tool; it's a proper modeling tool. So the information you see on your diagram is actually reflecting the model you have in Evolve. So when I'm reusing an object here, I'm reusing an object which is in Evolve. When I'm creating a new object, I will create that new object in Evolve when the diagram gets published. So my work is done here, so I just need to create a few relationships between Salesforce and the order creation service. And these relationships will be reflected in the model as well. So once again, not just a drawing tool, it's a modeling tool. Now I've got a link between my order creation and my process, and let's assume here that my process is being performed by my accounting team as well. Great. My work is done here, so I can, as I'm Tony, so I'm going to submit that diagram to my portfolio manager. My portfolio manager reviews the diagram and can now publish the diagram. My diagram is now published, so when I return to Evolve, when I can actually consume that information, if I refresh the site and access the services view for my Salesforce application, I will be able to see the work that Tony's done today. So my site is refreshing. It's taking a bit of time today. Finally.
I'm convinced it's a bandwidth globally.
Yeah, I'm actually using a VM, so well, actually no, the VM should be able to perform actually. So I'm not sure what's causing it, but so in theory now, if I reaccess my services, then I will be able to see that my new service has been created, my process is there, and so on, and the relationships are there as well. So if I was to access the Salesforce application itself and look at the associations, then I should be able to see the order creation there is service being linked to it. So once again, not just a drawing tool, it is actually a modeling tool that helps populate the model behind the scenes. My second use case is around process modeling. My name is Martin. I'm head of business process improvement, and I'm told that there's a real problem with the way we manage leads within the organizations. So I'm going to look at my process architecture and look at sales and marketing, see what we have in there. And you can see that, oh, actually, I don't actually have a process that describes, how we manage leads, within the organization. So I will go within that process. And here you will see that, I've got the list of diagrams published and the drafts created against that process, and none of them exist. I will create a new draft, and I will use a template of level 3. Seems like the right level to use, for that the level of information I require. So I've got a brand new draft here. So I will call it manage leads. There we go, and I will start creating a diagram. So I can use, various features which come with the web modeler. So I do have some diagram settings which allow me to display a grid, snap to grid, change the grid size, and so on. So all the features you would expect. And I will start during a process. I will start with an event, which is a lead. New lead generated. There we go. I can save that. Next, well, actually, I'm not too familiar with the concept of the lead generation, so I'm going to call on Wendy as well. Wendy knows everything about lead generation and lead management, so I'm going to ask Wendy, if she can help me with that diagram. And Wendy has kindly agreed. Now, there are two ways that Wendy can access the draft. I mean, she can either go to the Evolve site and she will see the draft here and she can update it from there, or I can just simply send the link to Wendy, and Wendy from her browser will be able to paste that link and access the same draft. Now you will notice that the grids and so on, aren't showing in Wendy's modeler, and that's because they're user preferences. So if I don't want to see them, I don't have to. So now what I'm going to do now, I'm actually going to collaborate with Wendy. So Wendy has agreed to with us all working from home at the moment, we've agreed to meet online to collaborate on that diagram. Working face-to-face is no longer an option these days. So Wendy opens her diagram. I've got mine open as well, and now we can start collaborating. So Wendy is telling me that the next step, from lead generation is to load the lead into the system. So load the lead. And then, so as you can see, as I create my my process in my browser, Wendy can see the same in hers, and then Wendy can actually say, well, after loading a lead, I will, don't know, process a lead. There we go. So I've got very limited time here, so I will make the process very simple and maybe finish it off. And I think the key here is that you can see that you can have both processes side by side. So minimize here and add a an external result. And that's sorry, wrong tab. There we go. Something that I didn't highlight, but here you've got the a little icon here that tells you that I've got one item to do on my to-do list, and that's when you break rules on the diagram. So I've got a rule here that says names are mandatory, and I didn't create a name for my end event. So you click on that task, and it will point you exactly in the place to fill it in. So that's end of process. Save this, and then you can, as usual, create the sequences between your processes. And once again, for the sake of time, I will leave that diagram as it is. So once again, just to show you that, you can collaborate with multiple users. So I've used 2 users here in parallel, but you could have, 4, 5, 6 if you wanted to. In practice, more than half a dozen, becomes a bit difficult to manage, but technically, you can have as many as you like. So I'm done here. We're all happy with the diagram on how to, manage leads within the organization. So Wendy can go away and do whatever she does, and then I can publish my diagram. It's successfully published. Go back into Evolve, refresh once again my site. Hopefully, it will take a bit less time. And I can go back into my my process architecture, back to my sales and marketing, and here I can see that I've got my managed leads diagram being published. And this is it. This is a very, very high-level overview of Web Modeler. There is a lot more to show, but if you've got any interest, feel free to reach out, and I'll talk you through it in more details. That's all I have, Wendy.
Great, thank you, Manuel. So I just want to let everyone know we have a lot of questions that are being asked in the chat session, and we have time at the end for you to be able to ask the questions, and we'll be able to respond. So Manuel, thank you, and just again to share with everyone, the Web Modeler offering has been a request for a long time from our customers. So I know it's important to everyone, and everyone's interested. So we'll spend some time. We'll spend some time at the end. Okay, it really is amazing how fast time does go by. So let's go into our next session, and that is with Scott Lawson. So Scott is the Director of IT Architecture at QAD. And, just a little background, QAD actually provides ERP for manufacturing, and is a very large technology firm, and has been a Evolve customer for a very long time, and has been very supportive, and has had a lot of input into the solution. So he'll take you over through how he's using Evolve, and then actually demonstrate their Evolve environment and how they use Evolve today. So Scott, it's all yours.
All right, thank you. And let me know if my voice is okay and if my video is okay. We're going to give it all to you today. And you can see by my template slide, or my start slide here, I'm just going to explain about Evolve at QAD, but I'm going to explain a little bit who is QAD and who's on our team. And then I'm going to talk about our purpose for EA, and more importantly, the questions of the business, because we feel that enterprise architecture, it's got a lot of diagrams and objects and models and a bunch of stuff, frameworks and whatever, and many people at QAD, and I'm sure outside of QAD, kind of roll their eyes at enterprise architecture and don't want to hear anything about it. But what we've tried to do is use Evolve to help people answer questions they have. So it's almost like a Google for the enterprise, not big documents, but hey, what is up with the enterprise? And we do that with collecting information, trying to classify that information, and trying to clarify that information. And I'm going to talk on this theme about collection because we also, besides Evolve and the main products, we also own Erwin DT, Data Transformation, which we like to call Collector because it used to be called Collector, and it collects information into our repository. And that's really the only way we can keep up. You know, the demo we just saw is great. I love the web modeler. I'm looking forward to installing it later this month, or later next month, I should say. But it's impossible to draw all the diagrams you need yourself. So we're going to do a demo to show you how to find those answers in Evolve, in our implementation Evolve, and I'll talk a little bit about our future plans. So and my slides are not moving. What is that? There we are. QAD. This is a picture of our corporate office in Santa Barbara, California. We're a software company. We make ERP and supply chain software for manufacturers specifically. Last year, we were 40 years old, so we hit the big 4-0, and we have a couple thousand employees, a bunch of offices all over the place, lots of confusion, lots of complication, lots of customers, lots of people doing different things, and we really needed enterprise architecture to keep track of all that stuff. Just like Dave was saying, I mean, he's a huge company, much bigger than us, and there's stuff all over the place. How do you keep track of it? How do you make sure that you're getting your money out of the things that you buy, and that people are communicating together? And so we've been Erwin Evolve users since 2014, which was really pretty much the first version or whatever. On my team, I have 10 people on my team. Here they are in their Google Meet meeting. We meet video all the time, and you can see their names down here. They each have a specialty, but really we work on enterprise architecture only about 10% of our time. So really have one person building out Evolve, but it's across all of us. And maybe it's 15% of the time or whatever, it varies. They're all highly advanced, skilled, not only architects, enterprise architects, but also technical architects. And they cover the areas from network and business and telecommunications and so forth and so on. So we're a team of 11. And our purpose in enterprise architecture is really to see the big picture. And you need a framework to see that big picture, kind of like this, subway map or this transit map that we see here. But it's also not only to see the big picture, but to connect the dots. There's a lot of dots and things in your business that you don't even know about. In fact, IT folks have a name for it, which is kind of bad. Shadow IT. It's that IT that somebody built or bought or did something with that you didn't approve. And we're not trying to get rid of shadow IT. We're trying to bring it out of the shadows, because you know what? Oftentimes we find that when somebody brings something into QAD and we know about it, we can connect it to other people who use that tool, and we take a pivot and we go, you know what? Let's get rid of that old tool and let's use this new tool that these folks looked at. And that leads us to shared decisions. We really want to share the decisions with all of QAD. So one key principle that we did right away with Evolve is we open it up to everybody. It's a website. It's just a plain old website, and you can browse through it and look at all of our stuff. And if you have questions, ask us. If you are planning something, let us know. Like, look into it here. It's a big database of information, not a bunch of diagrams, not a bunch of static things that we put over in some repository that nobody reads. It's active as is information for us. That will help and has helped us elevate IT to a strategic position. We don't want to be the folks in the engine room, as my boss is always saying, just keeping, shoveling the coal or whatever the metaphor is. We want to be there for the strategic decisions. And to do that, you have to see people, you have to show people what they have, what is connected, how it's related to things, and then they can understand the subtleties of the business. So behind all of this, we needed some sort of framework. We needed a way to organize our information, because it's not just about drawing a bunch of diagrams randomly. And so, the Zachman framework, we're Zachmanites to the core, and this is what powers our Evolve. Does it power our Evolve? No, it just informs our Evolve. We don't want to talk too much about that because nobody cares about the Zachman framework except for Zachman and maybe me, and I make my team care about it a little bit. All what people care about are business technology questions. And so some of those questions are, how is my identity protected? How are we protected from malware? Hey, will my team be able to work from their home? You know, do they have the tools they need? What systems are in our Mount Laurel, New Jersey office? Because maybe we have to shut it down, or maybe there's a problem over there. What do we need to consider here? Who can help me? I'm at home and I don't normally have the help desk guy in the basement or whatever I can talk to. How can I get help with my application problem? Who do I go and talk about? And maybe what is required to perform a critical process that is always done in office? So these are some standard business questions. And what my demo will do is we will answer all 6 of these questions live using Evolve. And of course, there's dozens and dozens and dozens more questions you can answer from all levels. But back to Zachman. Zachman has 6 questions that he deals with, and we've organized our things, our objects in Evolve as underneath those questions. And so really what you need to understand about enterprise architecture, it's very simple. You need to make a list of stuff, make a list of your things, relate those things together. How are they related? And then make some models, make some diagrams, make some visuals, lists, whatever, out of that information. So I always say we're tracking 10,000 things, but that was a couple of years ago. We really have 14,685 things and 961 diagrams, and they're categorized like this. And you can see some of these guys, some of these objects. I love them so much I call them guys. Some of these objects are highlighted in an orange color. Well, those are the objects that are collected, that are data transformation. We use erwin.DT to pull those into our repository on a regular basis. Most of them are on every 24 hours. So we have projects in a project management set over here in How, and we pull those in, the project status and update and so forth. We have application contracts and licenses that we pull in from an asset management tool. We have workers. Each and every person who works at QAD is pulled in from our HR system and so forth and so on. So there's some counts. This was a couple of days ago or whatever, but they go up and down and move around, but they're automatically, once you've got this set up, you can join them together. You can associate them, is how Erwin calls it. And when you re-import them, they keep those associations and you have one representation of each thing. So that's really the key difference here in Erwin or this tool, is that you have one representation of that application. It might show up a whole bunch of different places in different ways, but it's only one. You don't have to redo it. It's not a static diagram. So these are the things we track, but we need to show those on diagrams. And so I wanted to go through a couple of diagram types that we have. We have one of our key diagrams that you'll see a bunch of are application communication. This is, hey, what are the applications and how do they pass data? Not really how, but what data do they pass back and forth between one another? Because data is at the essence and the core of our business. And we're worried about where data is, if we're duplicating it, are we using it right, are we losing it or whatever. Now, another kind of application diagram is a technology stack. That's where geeks like me and my team, hey, we want to know what servers they're on, what technology they're using, and that way we can get some intelligence and understanding of what we have out there. Notice it's orange. All of those diagrams are generated automatically by the processes that you can set up in Evolve. We also have capabilities associated to applications so we can drill into them. We'll use that a couple of times in the first couple of questions that are hierarchies. I'm a hierarchy fan. I like to classify things, and that's what we do here. We make categories of things and we fit things into groups, and so we have a general purpose template to do that. A new diagram we've just developed last year was a network diagram. We really wanted to show the locations, network equipment, technology, and circuits, and you can't make that diagram without all of those objects. So you would have noticed from my previous slide that we auto import circuits. Now, we do that by, we have an inventory of circuits somewhere else. So what I told my team is like, great, if we have data somewhere else, let's pull it in and associate it. So that's what we did there. There's also a process hierarchy, exactly like Manuel showed just here. We have a hierarchy of framework, process, sub-process, and task, and I'll show you how that shows up. And we show those in BPMN diagrams, which, you know, Evolve makes a great tool to be able to express yourself in the design language that you choose. So you can choose whatever design language you want and be able to use that consistently with templates. So now let us get to the demo. So I'm going to escape out of here. I'm going to tab over to my Evolve set here. And somebody out there, let me know if you don't see that properly. But here is our Evolve site. And you can see I have a web page here of various views. And one thing, again, I'll go back a little bit to the Zachman framework. For those of you who are familiar with it, on the left-hand side, I have the questions: why, how, who, what, and so forth. And on the rows, I have the rows of Zachman, the views of Zachman. So we kind of embed Zachman in here without bonking you over the head with it. Lately, we've looked at different ways to present this information, and we might be, that's what I'm talking about with the Board of Directors suite and the C-suite. We're looking at ways to develop an Evolve site that will look and feel much less like techno person or whatever, and more like the business. But let's get back to those questions. So the first question was, how is my identity protected? Well, I can drill into my capabilities here. And my top level capabilities, these are the capabilities of the business. And I'm thinking, well, what would that be under? That would be under secure people, products, and data. That's how our top level capability is. And under here, we have the capabilities of security. So the security capabilities. And we wrote a big long capability because we didn't want to just say security, because that means anything. We wanted to call out people, products, and data. And so we're talking about my identity, so we're going to draw into identity management. And all these diagrams you're seeing here are, again, generated. I didn't have to draw these. These are generated from associations. And I can see these are the applications that are that support and that deliver the capability of identity and access management. And I can click on these, like over here in Workday, I have this little pop-up, and I can recenter that. And I can see in this pop-up, there's a bunch of information associated in here. I can see the data that Workday receives and so forth and so on. I can see workers, I can get a description and all that kind of stuff. And if I want to drill into it further, I can double click on Workday and I can see the full picture of Workday. So here's the full application communication diagram of all the data and the applications that are connected to Workday. Now, if you see over on the left-hand side, I have some more Zachman terms over here. And I want to know what the motivation is. I want to say, well, how is my identity protected? But is that something that is driven by a framework? And when I go into motivations here, I can see the capabilities that this application delivered. But more importantly, I can drill down into these requirements. The requirements are the whys of the business. Like, okay, well, yeah, you say Workday protects my stuff, but how does it do that? And you know, what are the reasons? What are the requirements behind that? And you can see these are all NIST framework requirements that we've pulled into here, as well as other requirements. So I can see these lists and I can drill into them. Now, the next question, I'm going to go back up. And it was a very similar question, so we're going to use a similar method. How are we protected from malware? And I'm going to go look at that same area. I'm like, well, that's security as well. I'm going to drill down into this security. And malware is all about something on your servers and your users' devices, on your PCs. So here is the drill in to the malware protection, and you can see I have all of these tools. I can answer my CIO to say, when he says, hey, what's on the client to help us, these are all the things that help us, both on the client and off the client, that protect the users at the end point of view. And you know, all of our users globally went home and are working from non-secure locations. And so we needed to make sure that's true here. And I can double click on McAfee like I did before, and I can see McAfee, and I can look at these motivation intentions, and I can see you know, any kind of detail in here, and I can see, hey, malicious code is detected, and I can drill into that, and that NIST framework element here shows me that this NIST framework element is actually not only McAfee, but we have other applications to control it. And I can even drill into the diagrams that this shows up on and go and see the full NIST framework. In fact, if you wanted to look at that, I can show you just real briefly as a side. We've got the whole framework programmed in here and connected together. Now, the third question was, hey, how do will my team be able to work at home? So for something completely different, we have a list of applications. You need to know what applications your team might have. And we have a hierarchy of applications here, a list of all the highest level applications and what's underneath them. So for example, we have an Atlassian suite with a bunch of its components and so forth. But if I scroll down here, I can look at, hey, there's an employee desktop image. So if I click on that, I can open up the employee desktop image. And again, I have a generated diagram that shows me what is on every employee's PC by default, what is on there for sure. And I can look at there and I can go, oh, look, I have a remote access tool for terminals. I have PuTTY on there, and I have an OpenVPN client on there, and I have PDF, and I have zip files and so forth, and I have several browsers. So good, I think I'm good to go as long as I have a standard issue QAD laptop. And maybe some people don't, and so we can use this diagram to say, you know what, you can use your personal computer, but we have to install malware bytes on it to be secure. So we have a clear picture of that. Okay, the next question that I wanted to answer are, hey, what systems are in our Mount Laurel office? You know, we got locations, what's there? We have hundreds of people in that office, and so we need to find out what's there. So I can, again, I could use the menu, or I could scroll down here, and I have a view here called Equipment by Location. And Evolve gives you these awesome visualizations of maps. So here are all our locations on the map. These are clickable. This, again, this is not a diagram like a drawing, but this is a live action database. In fact, we have a dot way up here that's all the applications that are in the cloud. Sort of, we don't know where the applications are or the equipment is or whatever. And I can drill into any of these, and I can zoom in if I want, but I'm going to go to this Mount Laurel, New Jersey here, and boom, it opens into the office in Mount Laurel, and we have little maps there, and we can see underneath the inventory sets all of the equipment that is in Mount Laurel, and we can see a list of those things. Hey, we have projectors, we have Chrome boxes, we have a security badge system, we have a firewall, and so forth and so on. And you might want to say, well, okay, that's great, but those are just servers. What about applications? Applications are who does the work, so they're under responsibility. And you can see here's a list of applications also associated with Mount Laurel. And we can say, oh man, we have a order management department share there. We want to make sure that it's accessible. So we can take a look at this, and we can see this department share. And we can see, say, who's responsible for it. We can see, okay, I better call the help desk on that one. So we can look in that for all of our locations. Another thing that people ask about is, well, who can help me with an application problem? Again, this is the help desk problem where normally in a big office, you just, you know, the person is at their desk and you go and call them, or you go and wander by there with your problem. But now everybody's at home. So how do we do that in COVID land and in lockdown? We have all these views here of all of our largest, most popular used applications. And one of them, for an example, is ChangePoint. So I can click on ChangePoint. It's a PSA tool, and you can see this is our diagram. And like all diagrams in Evolve, these are active. And you might say, well, how do I tell who's in charge of that? All I got to do is click on this. And again, I can scroll down in here, and I can see hey, the R1 worker, that's our term for support, and the R2 worker are these folks. And I can even just go click on Keith Roberts here and show you the phone number of where he is, and even drill down into who he's or what applications he's responsible for to see if he's busy. Not only what he's responsible for in applications, but on actual computers and servers as well. So you can go find that out pretty easily, you know, wherever you are. If you want, though, a little more information, you can drill down into, let's say ChangePoint is not working, you can see all the information of what is connected to ChangePoint. And these little parallelograms are data, and we can see data moving from the data warehouse into ChangePoint. And so maybe we have that problem and we can go look at that. And again, I can pivot here and I can go, well, time booked, what is this? This is a piece of data. This is a piece of composite data. It is PII, and I can drill into where all that data is. Now, lastly, the last question was, hey, who can perform a particular process? And what I'm going to do is to drill into this process. I think I clicked on the wrong thing there. There we go. We have process over here. Again, looking at the Zachman questions, process is about how you do things. And when I click on capability, how, these are all the views that I have to see what my processes are, okay? And I have things programmed into here, like for IT, this is the IT governance process map, and this is in the form of COBIT over here, and we drew this out in here. But a simpler thing, not just for IT, but for the whole company, are these frameworks. And just like Manuel was showing, these processes here, you can drill into. So I'm going to drill into the sales or the customer relationship framework. And we, again, this is classification of things. And I can say, well, I want to look at implement products and services. And I can see, oh, okay, well, we have all of these elements here. And again, I have these lovely pop-ups. And you can see when I click on deliver product, it shows up over here. And I can say like, oh, here's a document reference for the fulfillment quality plan. Okay, I'm going to click on that. And that actually pulls in a document from our document management system that shows us the official policy or quality plan overview document for this particular process. And I can read through all that. That is over in another system. Again, we don't pull this physical document into here, but we pull a reference into there. So, so that's cool. But if I want to drill down even further and get to very specifics, we can drill down again here and say, let's go to this easy onboarding process, which is something that we do when we deliver a product. And we have these sub-processes, and you can see they're different color. We can tell they're sub-processes, and we can drill into this and say, well, what is the manage engage process? And finally get to a point of a diagram, a swim lane diagram that we've built in here, and we can see all of the processes and how they work together, and we can get click on stuff, and we can get a description of the process, and so forth and so on. So basically, that's how we've implemented Evolve, and I'm always looking to build it out. And so we are excited about the web modeler. We're going to install that next month, I think, with our new version, and be able to do some of that collaboration. But I'm really enthused about all the tools that work together so that we can collect the things in the business, we can manage all of those objects, and we can go and assemble views and diagrams, both manually and automatically, to show people how to answer their own questions. And as we get to the C-suite and the board of directors, we plan to layer over more and more things of the business, things that they care about, maybe value chains, maybe those high-level bits. Of course, we came at this from the IT department, and so we have a lot of IT kind of stuff, and you can see that down here. We catalog data stores and data and applications and so forth. But as we get up into the higher levels, we really want to understand how projects are going to affect the business and what are the standards and regulations we're following. Things like data sensitivity. This is a big question in COVID-19 about, hey, do we have the highest sensitivity of data? What are the applications that have that data? We have little symbols over here, and these again are all live. This is not a thing that I had to assemble. This is a generated tool, and I can say, oh, wow, the data warehouse is business and data sensitivity is the highest. I'm going to drill into that and see what is up with the data warehouse. What is that all about? And I have various diagrams on that. Okay, so I'm going to cut it off there. And
so that's really, really fantastic live demo, Dave, Scott. So many interesting things that you talked about. And, I spend a lot of time with the industry analysts, and, you're speaking sort of the forward-thinking EA language that they really are sort of evangelizing across the space, especially when it comes to, taking the output of all of the work that you've done and building all these models and answering all the questions and being able to generate that into something that can be shared with the C-suite, right? To be able to take the tool out of the sort of tooliness, right? And bring it up to being a business decision-making source like every other source. So I thought that was really an interesting thing. And then the other thing that you talked about, that Dave talked about as well, was the importance of data, right? So data and systems and technology and architecture all going together. And we actually are going to spend some time in our June session talking very specifically about the role of data, as we see many more companies like yours that are bringing on multiple tools and are looking for all of the things that we do here with data governance and data modeling and EA and BP modeling coming together. So very interesting. So in the interest of time, we've decided that we're going to move Marius's presentation to a standalone webinar, because we want to give him plenty of time. And we've had tons and tons and tons of really great questions, which excites me because it means our audience is super engaged. So I'm going to actually start this one with you, Dave, because you were up in the very beginning. And there was a question about, in terms of the Adecco project and the initial project and rollout, how were you able to justify the use case for EA at Adecco? What was it really that freed up the money and got the project started? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can. So initially, as I was saying, we were using Mega, which was costing a bit on a yearly basis. And the challenge I got was really to be able, if I wanted to replace my Excel spreadsheet tool, to stay in the budget. And when we assess all the solution, using Erwin was really, for me, an evolved solution was the opportunity to stay in the budget I had already. After, how did we justify? At the end, it's always a matter also of sponsorship. Just to be clear, I was saying in 2017 when we started at least I started as an enterprise architect in Adecco. We were 4 in the team. Now we have a strong sponsorship, because we understand that if we continue to develop and implement many solutions and let countries do whatever they want, we'll never reach the target to become a digital player in the new digital business. And today, this year, we decided to hire about 10 to 15 people in the team, not only enterprise business architect, but infrastructure architect, solution architect, security architect, in order to be able to answer and to ensure that we are able to choose the right solution and to ensure that the solution are well structured and will enable us to become a digital player by centralizing our data, or at least harmonizing the data structure and so on and so on. So from my point of view, I got a certain amount of budget, which was already here. And in second, I use really the sponsorship of the countries. So I went to the countries and asked them to really
To help to
choose the
participate.
solution with us.
Yeah. That's great.
Did I answer?
Thanks, Dave. Yes.
Thanks, Dave. Victoria, would you do me a favor and just let's advance through these next 2 slides and then we'll take the rest of the questions. I can tell you we've got more questions than we'll have time for. So we're actually going to go ahead and answer those and send them out, actually probably to the whole bunch of you that have stayed on through the entire call, so you have the benefit of it. But I just wanted to just zoom through and say there's lots of things that we would love for you guys to do as next steps, and some resources that I wanted to make sure I took a moment to share. First of all, we will have a follow-up session on June 24th. As we had discussed when we first announced this is a series of 3. June 24th, we're going to spend some time and energy around business process, and we're also going to talk about the importance of data. As you heard lots of that being discussed today, we will also hopefully have 2 really great customer speakers, although it's going to be hard to touch these 2 guys today. If you're not already, we urge you to subscribe to the Erwin Expert blog. We've spent lots and lots of focus on getting great EA content that's focused around COVID and rapid response and lots of other things. And we also, in case you haven't seen it, have launched something that we're calling the Erwin Rapid Response Resource Center, which is a place where we've aggregated together lots of information for folks that are coping and dealing with exactly the kinds of things that Scott talked about in his presentation today. If you haven't already joined our LinkedIn community that is dedicated to Evolve, please do so. I have found that at this time, with all the things that are happening in the world, that one of the ways I'm getting the best information to help me move forward with the things I need to do from a professional perspective is through some of my LinkedIn contacts and community. So, you know, we urge you to do that. And obviously, for anybody that hasn't seen a complete demo of the new Evolve, please contact your rep. And then one more slide there, Victoria, before I go to the rest of the Q&A. And that is we depend on you guys to tell the market about your experience with us. It becomes a really important part of us being able to extend and expand and invest in the product. So we'd like to ask all of you, if you haven't already done it already, to take 10 minutes to do a product review for us. Gartner has a peer review site that we'll send the link to you to. And then we also are doing longer and more in-depth peer reviews where we are scheduling a research analyst to call you. It's absolutely painless, and we provide a $100 honorarium, and if you can't accept that, we'll also actually send that to a charity. And then last but certainly not least, before I go to Q&A, we are about to get in-house the Gartner Magic Quadrant on enterprise architecture, and we will need probably 10 to 15 customers who are willing to work with us on the Gartner references. And so that's something that we'll come looking to ask for your help and your support over the next few weeks. So moving on with the Q&A, we had lots and lots of questions following Manuel's section. So Manuel, turn on your video and get ready to rock and roll. Okay, so one of the things that somebody asked, somebody caught you and said, now, even though you immediately published the diagram, when you made those changes in the real world, that would have been part of a change approval process, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So there's 2 sides to that. So the first one is around access rights. So if I was to ask, as I was trying to play out in the use case, Tony, my junior architect, to create a diagram, Tony will not actually have the access rights to publish that diagram into the model. So there's no danger here that somebody will try and publish something they have no access to. And also there is an aspect of workflow as well behind that question. And just to say that Web Modeler is a product that has just come out, so we're still heavily investing in the development of the product, and workflow management is another feature that we're planning to add to the Web Modeler in the future.
Okay, good. And in fact, somebody did ask the question whether when Web Modeler would be available, and we answered them in the chat that it was already generally available and had been so since the month of February. One of the other questions that we got was, is it possible to have two kinds of people in Web Modeler, one that creates new objects and one that uses existing objects?
Absolutely, yes. And once again, it's back down to access rights. So we don't want people to be limited in the drafts, because it's a safe environment and they can experiment, as they like. However, in terms of reusing, yes, they can reuse any objects. Anyone can actually reuse any objects, so long they've got rights to access them. But in terms of publishing back into the model, only those allowed to create these objects will be allowed to publish these, and if they're not allowed, the tool will tell them, sorry, but you're trying to do something you're not allowed to. So once again, it's back down to access management.
Okay. And then here's another one that I have absolutely no idea what the answer is. Does Web Modeler support models created by Erwin Data Modeler?
That's a good question. So the Web Modeler supports all of the templates you can support in Evolve today. So there's no limitation in the types of diagrams. So if you're at the moment modeling your data through entity relationship diagrams in Evolve, Web Modeler will be able to support that as well. Yeah. Where we may want to look into a bit more detail is around the rules that users may have implemented around what you can or can't do between various object types, but that's in the details. But as a general rule, any types of diagramming you do in Evolve, you can do in Web Modeler.
And Wendy, we are seeing a lot more customers, right, that are looking to really connect their Evolve and their data modeler and data intelligence implementations. Isn't that right?
Yeah,
Correct.
absolutely.
That's
yeah.
right. That's right.
And a lot of interest in the collaboration aspect of Web Modeler due to the fact that everyone is working from home at the moment.
Right.
That's a very, very interesting features for our customers.
All right, so I've got one final question, and we've got about a minute left. I'm going to toss this one to Scott. There was a question about defining hierarchies. How do you define your data hierarchically? Not easy to say. And if so, how? And the questioner said, we have so many data entities and attributes, and we'd like to organize them. So can you give him a little head start?
Yeah, blood, sweat, and tears. It's not an easy thing to do, and I think we don't have the data products from Erwin, so we had to do it by hand. So how we do that is that we kind of ignored attributes. We're not really worried about attributes as far as documenting that. That's for some other more detailed tools. And we step up a level to entities. Entities, what we call entities, are tables, really, in databases. So we took most of our data warehouse is in SQL tables, and we took a export, or we do export of those tables and those table names. And then we associate those tables with databases. Databases are what we call data stores. And so that's sort of the technical end of it. And then on top of that, we had to hand build our data hierarchies. So we looked at all the data. We spent time thinking about that data, and we have arranged it around the large groups of data of our customers, products, workers, or whatever. And we just little bit by little bit, as we create those application communication diagrams I was showing you with those parallelogram datas, we look at data and we go, yeah, that's a data object. We have 4 levels. We have the highest level piece of data, and I always mix them up. So there's conceptual and I can't remember the names of them, but we go down 4 levels. In fact, we just added a 5th level, which is really more like a field, sort of a field, or almost an attribute level. And we link them as parent-child, and we try to keep track of them. And so I wish I had a better answer for you. What I'd like to do is to use some of the Erwin tools that automatically, supposedly, go into our databases, extract all that stuff, and then build that out. That would be the hope. but we don't have either the time nor really the resources to do that quite yet. So we've built them little bit by little bit.
Yeah, well,
So-
that's interesting, Wendy. You wanted to speak to that, and definitely will be a topic for the June session.
Yeah, so Scott and for everyone else, that's we've learned that a lot of companies are doing that manual work, and with our data intelligence tool and our automated harvesting of databases and actually cataloging into our mapping manager and the rows and the columns and the attributes, we automate all of that. So we'll be talking to everyone more about that in the next session, but it's part of every company's question on a regular basis.
Yeah, and I'll have to say I'm skeptical about that. Not that your tool can't do that, but
Yep.
Companies are messy, data is messy.
Yes.
How getting to that data is difficult. How to get people there, and so again, we've taken kind of a low approach just to really focus on the data we care about. We probably only have 20% of our data catalog.
Yep.
Well, great. We really
Thank
thank,
you.
first of all, so thankful to Dave Favreau from Adecco and to Scott Lawson from QAD for sharing their stories and their expertise. I think, as I said, there's so many best practices things that they uttered and shared in their presentations. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy days. Manuel, for you presenting on Web Modeler, and for all of you to give us 90 minutes of your time. We hope that it was worthwhile for you. And again, we hope that you will take the opportunity. We'll send you a registration link in the follow-up email with these recordings to come and join us for the June event, June 24th, same time, 11 a.m. Eastern. So thank you to all and have a terrific day. Everybody stay safe where you are.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
you.
Stay safe and healthy.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.